Hello, and welcome to the Earth's Library. This is our quiet sanctuary for the curious mind, a place to explore the great stories of time and existence at the gentle pace of a sleeping world. Find your comfortable position and let the edges of your day begin to soften. Allow the noise and urgency to recede and your thoughts to slow, matching the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breath. Tonight, we begin a long journey. We travel back beyond the reach of written history, past the rise and fall of empires, to a time when the human story was just beginning to be whispered. We are looking for the quiet pulse of a day lived hundreds of thousands of years ago. We so often ask what our ancient ancestors did all day, how they hunted, how they survived. But a much deeper, more elusive question waits for us in the stillness. What did they feel? In a world without the words we have for comfort or science or philosophy, what was the shape of their thoughts? As they looked out onto a vast and untamed landscape, a world teeming with megafauna and untouched by any permanent structure, what was the nature of their wonder, their fear, their sense of belonging? We are not just excavating bones and stones. We are searching for the dawn of our own consciousness. But before we step into that distant past, let us first arrive fully in your present moment, here in the profound quiet that comes only in the last hours before sunrise, wherever you may be. The air is still. The world outside is painted in shades of deep blue and shadow, holding its breath for the coming light. This very stillness, this patient waiting for the dawn, is a thread of experience that connects you directly to them. Imagine their morning, waking not to an alarm, but to the subtle shift in the cool air, the silence broken not by the distant hum of the modern world, but perhaps by the call of an unknown bird, the rustle of grass in the wind, or the soft stirring of families sleeping close by. A small circle of warmth and safety in an immense and indifferent world. That shared moment of waking is the bridge we will walk across tonight. In the parts to come, we will spend many days with them. We will learn the silent language of tracking an animal across the savannah. We will explore the vast living library of knowledge a forager held in their mind. And we will descend into the sacred, flickering darkness of a cave to witness the birth of art. We will feel the essential heat of the fire that held their small band together against the immense cold and the deep night. This is a long and unfolding story. If you feel a pull to walk these ancient paths, to sit by this distant fire and listen, then join our library. Subscribe, and together we will continue this journey back to the very beginning of the story of us. That shared moment of waking is the bridge we now cross. Let the familiar comfort of your room dissolve, and feel the cool, clean air of a world 200,000 years younger. The dawn that is coming is not your dawn. There is no trace of human industry in the air, no scent of asphalt or exhaust. The air is thin, crisp, and carries only the scent of damp earth, crushed glass, and the distant wild smell of animals. This is the Pleistocene, a time of immense ice sheets to the north, and a world still finding its shape under the slow, powerful hands of geology and climate. Look up into the fading night. The stars in this sky do not twinkle with the gentle romance we know. They blaze. Unshielded by atmospheric haze, they are sharp, cold points of diamond and sapphire drilled into a darkness so absolute it feels infinite. The Milky Way is not a faint, milky smudge, but a vast, churning river of light, a celestial backbone arching across a sky that has never known the glow of a single city. This is the universe in its raw form, and to the human eye, it is both a map and a terrifying reminder of one's own smallness. The land itself is different. It is a world without straight lines, without fences or roads. The horizon is an unbroken curve of hills, plains, and ancient forests. The ground is uneven, a tapestry of rocks, roots, and game trails worn into the soil over millennia by herds of giant animals. Life here moves on a different scale. The grass is not a manicured lawn, but a wild sea of varying heights and colors, swaying with a life of its own. In the distance, a herd of steppe bison, each one a mountain of muscle and shaggy fur, grazes peacefully. The ground might tremble long before a family of mammoths comes into view, their long curved tusks sweeping the air as they move with an ancient, ponderous grace. This is a world of giants, and in it, our ancestors were small, soft-bodied creatures, armed with little more than sharpened stones and a brilliant, developing mind. They were not yet the masters of this world. They were simply a part of it, woven into its fabric of life and death as tightly as the cave lion and the wild horse. The silence here is a presence, a deep, resonant quiet that is punctuated only by the sounds of nature, the wind moving through the trees, the distant cry of a predator, the crack of a branch under a heavy foot. It is a silence that allows one to hear the beating of their own heart. In that immense, wild darkness, we find a single, fragile point of warmth, a flicker of orange against the blue-black of the pre-dawn world. It is a fire, and around it our story sleeps, waiting for the light. Let us draw closer to this small circle, the very center of a universe for the handful of people who depend upon it. This is not a bonfire, but a carefully managed heart of embers, breathing slowly in a shallow pit lined with stones. It is a living thing, an entity as much a member of this small band as any human. It provides warmth against the biting cold that seeps from the earth. It keeps the great predators, whose eyes glow just beyond the ring of light, at a safe distance. And it holds the darkness at bay, creating a tiny, temporary island of order in a world of overwhelming chaos. Here, huddled together on beds of packed earth and dried grass, covered by the heavy hides of previously hunted beasts, the sleepers lie. There is no privacy in this world. They sleep in a tangle of limbs, seeking shared warmth and the simple reassurance of another's presence. An adult's arm is draped over a child. A head rests on a sibling's back. Their breath rises in faint, ghostly plumes in the cold air. To sleep here is an act of supreme trust. Trust in the group, trust in the sleeper's own finely tuned senses, and above all, trust in the one who keeps the watch. For sleep is not a guaranteed peace. It is a necessary vulnerability, a time when the ever-present dangers of the world grow closer. Every snap of a twig, every unusual scent on the wind can pull one from the depths of rest. One figure is separate from the others, sitting upright. This is the keeper of the fire, the one whose turn it is to ensure the heart of the camp does not die. The responsibility is heavy, a silent duty understood by all. To let the fire go out is to invite the cold, the darkness, and the things that hunt within it. It is an unthinkable failure. So they sit, feeding the embers small pieces of dried wood, their face illuminated in the soft, flickering glow, their senses attuned to the night. As the sky begins its slow, almost imperceptible shift from black to the deepest indigo, one of the sleepers begins to stir. It is not a sudden awakening, but a gradual return. The first sensation is the cold, a deep chill that has settled into their bones. The next is the smell of the smoke, now thin and weak. Their eyes open, not to a room, but to the familiar sight of the sleeping forms around them, and the low, hungry pulse of the dying fire. Without a conscious thought, they rise. The first action of any day here is always the same: tend to the heart. They move to the fire pit, their bare feet silent on the cold ground, and begin the careful work of coaxing the flame back to life, adding dried moss, blowing gently on the embers, and carefully placing larger sticks. They work to revive the center of their world before the sun has even begun its climb. The fire catches. What was a moment ago a pale, struggling ember now blossoms into a confident flame, licking at the dry wood with a soft crackle. The light strengthens, pushing the deep shadows back and casting a warm, golden glow on the sleeping faces. The heat begins to radiate outwards, a welcome wave that washes over the chilled bodies. This growing warmth is the true signal for the day to begin. Slowly, the rest of the band begins to stir, drawn from the depths of sleep by the promise of heat. The children are often the first to move with real energy, squirming out of the hide coverings with the restless curiosity of youth. Their sounds are small at first, a cough, a quiet murmur, but they are the first notes in the camp's morning symphony. The adults rise more deliberately, their movements stiff from the cold and the unforgiving ground. A groan, a stretch of a back that has known no soft mattress, the quiet clearing of a throat. They gather closer to the reborn fire, holding their hands out to the flames, chasing the last of the night's chill from their fingers. As the warmth seeps back into their bodies, their minds turn to the second critical task of the morning. With the fire secure, attention shifts to the tools. One by one, individuals reach for their personal survival kits of stone and wood. A hunter picks up his spear, running a calloused thumb with immense care over the lethally sharp flint point. He checks the sinew bindings that lash it to the wooden shaft, testing for any weakness. Another examines a hand axe, its edge a testament to countless hours of patient, percussive work. These are not mere objects. They are extensions of their will, the interface between human ingenuity and a world of immense power and danger. To lose a tool, or to let it fall into disrepair, is to lose a part of your ability to provide, to protect, to exist. In the group, some are more skilled in this art than others. An older man, his hands scarred from a lifetime of knapping flint, might be the master craftsman. Others watch him, learning from the economy of his movements as he strikes a stone with a piece of antler, knowing just the right angle to flake off a perfect razor-sharp edge. Someone may bring him a damaged scraper, not as a formal request, but with a quiet look of hope. A well-made tool might be borrowed, but this is never a casual transaction. It is a debt, a favor that will be repaid with a share of a future meal or a piece of valuable hide. The morning is a time of quiet industry and assessment. There is no easing into the day, no moment of leisure. The simple, brutal calculus of survival dictates every action. Stay warm, find food, avoid injury. The fire has taken care of the first. The tools are now ready for the second and third. With weapons in hand and the camp stirring to full wakefulness, the next great question of the day presents itself, unspoken but felt by all: the profound, gnawing emptiness of the stomach. With tools in hand and the fire providing a circle of warmth, the attention of every awakened mind turns inward to the body's oldest and most insistent clock, hunger. There is no pantry here, no stored surplus from a distant harvest. Food is a resource that is immediate, ephemeral, and almost constantly in question. The first hope of the morning is for leftovers. A quiet search begins. eyes scanning the small camp for any sign of a meal carried over from the previous day. Perhaps a strip of meat, smoked and dried by the fire, still hangs from a wooden rack. Or maybe the marrow of a large bone, cracked open yesterday, still holds some of its rich, fatty prize. To find such a thing is a small miracle, a gift of calories that allows the day to begin with fuel rather than a deficit. But this is a rare luxury. More often than not, the search reveals nothing. The previous day's food was consumed, every last calorie needed and used. On a morning like this, breakfast is not a meal that is eaten, but one that must be found. The gnawing emptiness in the belly is the catalyst for the day's first labor. As the sun's light spills over the horizon, painting the landscape in soft shades of gray and rose, small groups begin to move out from the camp's perimeter. This is not the great hunt or the day-long forage. This is an immediate, urgent search for anything to quiet the stomach. Their senses are sharp, their knowledge of this small patch of earth intimate. They scan the ground for the telltale leaves of a familiar tuber, its starchy root a reliable source of energy. They move towards a thicket of bushes that, depending on the season, might offer a handful of tart wild berries, jeweled with morning dew. Protein is more unpredictable, but opportunities are everywhere for the observant eye. A small, unwary lizard sunning itself on a rock, a nest of bird eggs tucked away in the low branches of a shrub, or, most reliably, the hidden world of insects. A fallen log is rolled over, revealing a cache of grubs, pale and rich in fat. For a modern palate, the thought is alien, but here it is simply life. These small creatures are a predictable and valuable source of protein, an efficient package of energy that doesn't need to be chased or fought. It is a meal of pure function. At the same time, someone heads to the nearest source of water, a cold, clear stream that cuts through the landscape. They drink deeply, the icy water a shock to the system, washing away the sluggishness of sleep. Their bodies, hardened by generations of exposure, are resilient to the microscopic life teeming within this raw water. The first hunger and thirst of the day are now addressed, if not fully satisfied. It is enough to fuel the far more demanding tasks that lie ahead. The sun has now climbed above the horizon, burning off the last of the morning mist. The day's first hunger has been quieted, but the collective need of the band remains. A deep cellular demand for the calories that will fuel growth, sustain warmth, and power the very thoughts that are turning towards the landscape. The camp, once a single huddled unit, now prepares to divide. There is no formal council, no spoken plan articulated in complex sentences. The division happens organically, a fluid separation of purpose that has been practiced for generations. It is a choreography of survival, understood by all. Two paths will be taken today, each requiring a different form of courage, and a unique map of the world held within the mind. One group prepares for the forage. This party is a living library of the land's secrets, often composed of the women, the elders, whose pace is no longer suited for the explosive chase, and the older children, who are learning the intricate lessons of what is safe and what is poison. Their tools are subtle: sharpened digging sticks for unearthing roots and tubers, woven baskets or leather bags to carry what they find, and hands that are skilled at stripping seeds and plucking berries. Their departure is a quiet dispersal, a fanning out into the terrain. Their gaze is not on the distant horizon, but on the earth at their feet. They carry in their minds a detailed atlas of this place, a map not of landmarks, but of resources. They know which slope the sun warms first in the spring, encouraging the growth of tender greens. They remember the location of a stand of nut-bearing trees that will be ready in the autumn, and which mushrooms emerge only after a heavy rain. This knowledge is their primary tool, a legacy of observation passed down through countless seasons. Theirs is a quest of patience and encyclopedic wisdom. The other group readies for the hunt. Here, the energy is different. It is a coiled, focused silence. These are often the younger adults, their bodies honed for endurance and sudden bursts of power. They carry the lethal technology of the day, long, sharp spears balanced for throwing, and heavy stone axes capable of delivering powerful blows. They gather not to disperse, but to move as a single coordinated entity. Their eyes are turned outward, scanning the vast plains and the edges of the woodlands for any sign of movement. They are reading a different kind of language, the language of a freshly broken twig, a set of tracks pressed into the mud by a stream, the distant circling of vultures in the sky. Theirs is a mission of strategy, risk, and collaboration. They are seeking the ultimate prize, a large animal, a windfall of meat and fat that can feed the entire band for days, providing not just sustenance, but status and security. With quiet nods and final checks of their weapons, the two groups separate, their paths diverging into the vast, silent landscape. Let us first walk with those whose eyes are turned downward, to the earth and its subtle gifts. The foraging party moves not with the tense, forward-driving energy of the hunt, but with a slower, more meandering pace that allows for constant observation. Their journey is a web of intersecting paths, guided by memory and the quiet language of the land itself. Each member of the group is a living archive, a carrier of generations of accumulated knowledge. They understand that survival is not just found in the clash of a spear with a beast, but in the patient, detailed reading of the world around them, the shape of a leaf, the color of a flower, the texture of bark, the time of year. All of these are words in a language they read fluently. This is not a simple walk. It is a highly skilled, multi-sensory investigation. An elder might pause, crumbling a bit of soil between her fingers, her experience telling her that its specific moisture and composition are ideal for a particular starchy tuber that grows deep beneath the surface. A younger forager tastes the air, catching the faint, aromatic scent of a patch of wild herbs growing in a sunny clearing nearby. Children tagging along are not idle. They are apprentices in the most critical school on earth. They watch their mothers and grandmothers, learning to distinguish the life-giving berry from its poisonous twin. A mistake can be the last lesson learned, so the teaching is done with immense care, through repetition and direct experience. The work is methodical. A digging stick, its point hardened in fire, is used to carefully excavate a tough, fibrous root. The reward is small for the amount of energy expended, but it is reliable. A little further on, the group comes across a thicket of bushes heavy with dark, ripe berries. Here, the return is immediate and sweet, a welcome burst of sugar. But they are not the only ones who know of this bounty. They are in constant, quiet competition with birds, small mammals, and even bears. A rustle in the undergrowth is met not with panic, but with a calm, watchful stillness, until the source is identified. While gathering food, their eyes are open for other necessities. A fallen branch of dry, dead wood is perfect for the evening fire, and is added to someone's load. The striking feathers of a large bird are collected for ornamentation or fletching. A wide strip of bark might be peeled from a tree to be used as a container or platter. Foraging is multitasking on a primal scale. It is the act of stocking the entire household of human life. With their baskets slowly growing heavier, the foragers work in a state of shared, silent understanding, their quiet, consistent effort forming the bedrock of the band's existence. The foragers move across the landscape like a flowing current, splitting around obstacles and coming together again, all without a single spoken command. This shared, silent understanding is a language in itself, spoken through posture, gesture, and a deep attunement to one another's rhythms. A pointed finger indicates a distant but promising patch of vegetation. A subtle hand signal warns of a snake coiled in the grass. This is a collective consciousness at work, a group of minds focused on a single, intricate task, each contributing their individual knowledge to the whole. The mind of a forager is a remarkable thing. It does not think in straight lines, but in cycles and connections. It holds the memory of last year's drought and knows how that might affect the growth of tubers this season. It understands that a certain insect on the leaf of a plant signals that its root is healthy and ready for harvest. This constant process of observation and decision-making is a form of deep meditation, a state of being fully present in the environment. Time here is not measured in hours, but in the angle of the sun, the changing temperature of the air, and the readiness of the plants themselves. It is a cyclical, living time, and to be a forager is to be in complete harmony with it. The children learn this rhythm by osmosis. A young girl walks beside her grandmother, her small basket still mostly empty. The old woman stops, not to speak, but to act. She takes the child's hand and places it on the leaf of a plant, letting her feel its unique, slightly fuzzy texture. Then she points to a nearly identical plant nearby, its leaves smooth and waxy. The child needs no words to understand the lesson. One is food, the other is sickness. The knowledge is passed not through abstract instruction, but through the senses, creating a direct and indelible link between the child and the living world. The weight of this education is immense, as a single mistake could weaken the entire band. As the sun climbs higher, the baskets grow heavy with roots, greens, a handful of nuts, and perhaps the rare prize of a comb of wild honey, carefully extracted from a hive with practiced speed. The steady accumulation of these resources is the band's true insurance policy against the world's uncertainty. The hunt may fail, the weather may turn, but the patient, detailed work of the foragers provides a constant, reliable stream of sustenance. Their success is not a dramatic, triumphant event, but a quiet, collective achievement. With their loads secure and the day's heat beginning to build, they turn their faces back toward the familiar landmark that signals the location of their temporary home. Their work, for now, is done. But elsewhere, under this same sun, a very different kind of work is underway, a story of speed, silence, and pursuit. Now, our perspective shifts. We leave the patient foragers on their journey home and turn our senses to the hunting party. Here, the rhythm is entirely different. The slow, meditative pace of gathering is replaced by a tense, focused forward momentum. This is not a task of quiet accumulation, but of singular, high-stakes purpose. The hunters move as one, a seamless unit of muscle and intent, their bodies and minds dedicated to a single goal: meat. A successful hunt means more than just a full belly. It means a wealth of fat for fuel and warmth, bone for tools and needles, and hide for clothing and shelter. Failure means a dangerous expenditure of precious energy for no reward, and a return to the gnawing hunger of the camp. Every member of this party feels the weight of that equation in the silence between their steps. They are reading the world just as intently as the foragers, but they are looking for different words in the Earth's great library. Their eyes scan the horizon for the distant dust cloud that signals a moving herd. They study the ground for the sharp, clear imprint of a hoof, noting its depth to gauge the animal's weight, its moisture to judge how long ago it passed. One hunter, moving far ahead of the others, is the scout. He is the tip of the spear, his senses the most attuned to the subtle signs of prey. He finds what they are looking for, the tracks of several large bison, fresh enough that the broken edges of the prints have not yet crumbled. He pauses, crumbling the soil himself, confirming its dampness. He looks ahead, reading the lay of the land, and signals back to the group with a silent, practiced gesture. The prey is near. The hunt now transforms into a stalk. The energy shifts from purposeful movement to an almost unbearable stillness. Every hunter becomes a shadow, melting into the landscape. They use the tall grasses for cover, their bodies bent low to the ground. They move with an impossible slowness, placing each foot with deliberate care to avoid the snap of a twig or the rustle of a dry leaf. The wind, which was just air a moment ago, is now the most critical element of their world. They constantly test its direction, feeling it on their faces, knowing that if their scent is carried to the herd, the hunt will be over before it begins. Their focus narrows until the entire world is composed of only three things: the position of the herd, the direction of the wind, and the silent movements of their companions. They are now ghosts in the landscape, heartbeats quiet, muscles coiled, waiting for the one sign that will unleash the storm. The moment stretches, thin and taut. The bison graze, oblivious, their great shaggy heads bent to the grass. The hunters wait, their bodies screaming with the strain of holding perfectly still. The leader, hidden behind a rocky outcrop, watches the herd's dominant bull. He waits for it to move to a precise spot, a subtle shift that will signal the herd's vulnerability. It happens. The bull takes 3 steps to the left. The leader raises his hand, and the signal is passed down the line of hidden hunters in a silent ripple of understanding. The storm breaks. With a unified, terrifying shout that rips through the placid air, the hunters explode from their cover. The effect is instantaneous and absolute. The peacefully grazing animals erupt into a frenzy of panic. Their heads shoot up, eyes wide with terror. The hunters are not just running at them. They are a wall of sudden, aggressive motion and sound, appearing as if from the earth itself. They wave their arms, they yell, they strike the ground with the flats of their spears, creating a disorienting wall of chaos. Their goal is not yet to kill, but to direct. They are the riverbanks, and the terrified herd is the river they intend to channel. Panicked, the bison stampede away from the sudden threat, and the hunters, with practiced skill, guide their flight. They close off escape routes to the open plain, forcing the thundering mass of bodies toward a natural choke point they had identified earlier. A narrow ravine where the rock walls rise steeply on either side. The ground trembles under the force of thousands of pounds of animal muscle. Dust and dry grass are kicked into the air, creating a thick, choking cloud that obscures the sun. The noise is a deafening roar of terrified bellows and the thunder of hooves on hard earth. As the animals are forced into the narrow passage, their panic intensifies. It is here, in the confined space, that the true danger begins. The hunters close in, their spears now held not for show, but for the kill. They move with a terrifying grace, dodging the desperate, powerful lunges of the trapped animals. A spear is thrown, then another. They aim for the vital organs, a quick and efficient strike, born of long practice. There is a deep, guttural bellow as a large bull stumbles, a spear buried deep in its side. The hunt, in this moment, is a chaotic dance of life and death, where a single misstep could mean being crushed or gored. Then, as quickly as it began, the chaos subsides. The bulk of the herd, having pushed through the ravine, escapes into the plains beyond. The hunters let them go. A profound silence descends, broken only by the heaving breaths of the hunters and the final shuddering sigh of the fallen bison. They stand exhausted, leaning on their spears, their bodies slick with sweat. There is no wild celebration, no cheering. There is only a deep, weary relief and a quiet, solemn respect for the immense creature that lies before them. The hunt is over, but the work of honoring the kill, the long and heavy labor of turning this great beast into life for the band, has only just begun. The echoes of the hunt fade, leaving a profound and heavy silence in the ravine. The air, once electric with adrenaline and fear, now settles, thick with the metallic scent of blood and the earthy smell of the great beast. The hunters stand for a long moment, their chests heaving, the tension slowly draining from their bodies to be replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. Before them lies the result of their skill, courage, and coordination, a mountain of life-giving resources. But it is also a life taken, and in this quiet moment, a silent acknowledgement passes between them. This is the great exchange of the Pleistocene world, the cycle of life and death made brutally, beautifully manifest. There is no room for sentimentality, but there is an immense, unspoken respect. To waste any part of this animal would be to dishonor the exchange, to devalue the risk and the life that was given. The work begins. The hunters lay down their throwing spears and retrieve the tools designed for this specific, monumental task. Flint knives, hafted onto short, sturdy handles, are drawn from leather sheaths. Heavy, teardrop-shaped hand axes, the iconic multi-tools of their age, are readied. This is where the careful maintenance from the morning pays its dividend. A dull edge now would mean hours of frustrating, wasted effort. The first task is to open the great hide. It is an armor of thick skin and dense fur, and breaching it requires both immense strength and a precise surgical skill. One hunter, the most experienced, finds the soft spot behind the ribs and makes the first cut, his entire body weight pressing down on a razor-sharp flint. The hide is peeled back with painstaking care, a collaborative effort of several individuals pulling and slicing, working to separate it cleanly from the layers of fat and muscle beneath. This hide is a prize in itself, a future blanket, a wall for a shelter, the raw material for clothing and containers. Every cut is made with this future use in mind. Once the body cavity is exposed, the hunters work with a focused, practiced efficiency. The nutrient-dense organs, the liver, the heart, the kidneys, are removed first. Rich in vitamins and minerals scarce in a diet of pure muscle, these are often consumed on the spot, raw and still warm. It is the hunter's immediate reward, a visceral communion with their kill, a direct transfer of energy that will fuel them for the arduous labor still to come. The scene is a tableau of primal anatomy, a lesson in the very structure of life. There is no disgust, only a deep, practical understanding. This is not a carcass, it is a complex map of resources. The next stage is the dismemberment, a task of brute force and anatomical knowledge. The group works to break the animal down into pieces that can be carried back to camp. Joints are located and expertly disarticulated. The heavy hand axes are used to break through the massive bones of the legs and ribs, the sharp crack echoing in the quiet ravine. Long sheets of dark red muscle are sliced away from the bone, cut into manageable strips that will be easier to transport and will dry more quickly back at the fire. The thick layers of white fat, a substance more precious than any stone, are carefully scraped off and collected in a pouch made from the animal's own stomach. The long, tough sinews are stripped from the back and legs, destined to become the cordage that will bind their next spear point or stitch their next piece of clothing. Nothing is overlooked. Even the smaller bones will be carried back to be cracked open later for the rich, creamy marrow hidden within. The work is relentless, messy, and all-consuming. The sun climbs higher, its heat intensifying the smell of the kill and drawing the first buzzing flies. A sense of urgency settles over the group. They must finish before the scent draws larger, more dangerous scavengers. The great animal is now gone, transformed into a collection of burdens to be carried. The final challenge remains, to bring this life-sustaining bounty home. The scent of blood hangs heavy in the air, a powerful magnet for every predator and scavenger for miles around. The hunters know this. The urgency that drove them during the stalk returns, but now it is a different kind of urgency, not of the chase, but of the retreat. Before them lies a vast bounty, a treasure of protein and fat that must be moved. They are miles from the safety of their camp, and the sun is beginning its slow descent from its zenith. The journey home will be a race against time, exhaustion, and the ever-watchful eyes of the wilderness. There are no carts, no beasts of burden to aid them. Their own bodies must serve. The great, heavy hide, now slick with blood, is laid out upon the ground. Upon it, they pile the choicest cuts of meat, the heavy, marrow-filled bones, and the precious bundles of fat. The edges of the hide are then folded over, and with strips of skin and sinew, they lash it into a massive, unwieldy parcel. This makeshift sledge, a travois of their own invention, will be dragged by two of the strongest hunters. The remaining pieces of meat, still immensely heavy, are slung over the shoulders of the others. They rise to their feet with collective groans, their muscles screaming in protest, their bodies transformed from swift predators into slow, lumbering pack animals. The walk home is a study in brutal endurance. Each step is a monumental effort. The weight of the meat presses down, grinding on their shoulders and backs. The hide sledge drags on the uneven ground, catching on rocks and roots, requiring immense, coordinated heaves to keep it moving. They move in a tight, defensive group, their weariness offset by a renewed vigilance. They are no longer silent stalkers. They are a slow, noisy, and fragrant procession, an open invitation to any opportunist. Their eyes continuously scan the horizon, Their ears are attuned to any sound that is out of place. The adrenaline of the hunt is long gone, replaced by a deep, aching fatigue and the relentless, grinding determination to simply get home. The sun beats down upon them, and sweat traces clean paths through the grime and dried blood on their faces. After what feels like an eternity, a familiar landmark appears on the horizon. A uniquely shaped tree, a specific rise in the land. They are close. A new energy, born of relief, finds its way into their weary limbs. Soon, a keen-eyed child back at the camp spots them, a small, dark procession moving slowly across the plain. A quiet ripple of excitement spreads through the camp. The foragers, having returned hours earlier with their own steady contribution, now rise and look out, their faces filled with anticipation. The children begin to run towards the returning hunters, their youthful energy a stark contrast to the profound exhaustion of the men and women they are greeting. The arrival is a moment of deep, communal triumph, though it is too quiet to be called a celebration. As the hunters finally reach the circle of the camp, they let their burdens fall to the ground with shuddering thuds of finality. They collapse by the fire, their mission complete. There are no grand speeches or boasts, only shared looks of respect and profound gratitude. The women bring them water in shells or hide bags. The two halves of the band are whole again, their separate labors now laid together before the fire. The patient, reliable harvest of the earth and the high-risk, dramatic bounty of the hunt are united. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the land, a different kind of work begins. The work of sharing, of feasting, of turning a successful hunt into the renewed strength of the people.
The sun touches the horizon, and the world is bathed in a final, spectacular wash of orange and purple. As the light of day surrenders to the coming night, the fire, which has been a steady, functional heart all day, undergoes a transformation. It is fed with the larger pieces of wood gathered by the foragers, and its flames leap higher, more confidently, throwing a great, dancing circle of light into the encroaching darkness. This is no longer just a tool for survival. It has become the stage for the evening's great ritual. The day of labor is over. The time of community has begun. A quiet, purposeful industry animates the camp. The division of labor that separated the band now dissolves into a collective effort. Several people work on the meat, skewering thick, fat-streaked chunks onto long, green sticks and setting them to roast near the flames. Others place the foragers' unearthed tubers directly into the hot coals at the edge of the fire, their dense flesh slowly softening into a nourishing meal. The massive bison hide is being scraped clean by the elders, their experienced hands preparing it for the long process of tanning that will take place in the days to come. The air, which earlier carried the sharp scent of blood and sweat, is now filled with the rich, savory aroma of cooking meat and the comforting smell of wood smoke. It is the scent of success, of security, of life. When the food is ready, it is brought to the center of the circle. The hunters who made the kill are given the honor of the first choice, a gesture of respect for their skill and risk. They take the richest, most energy-dense parts, the liver, the heart, the pieces with the most fat. But this is a brief, formal acknowledgement. Immediately after, the rest of the meat is shared among everyone. There are no plates, no utensils beyond a sharp flake of stone or a pointed stick. People eat with their hands, tearing at the hot, tender meat, the fat dripping down their chins. After a day of gnawing hunger and immense physical exertion, this meal is a moment of profound, almost spiritual satisfaction. The taste is more than just flavor. It is the taste of life itself, of energy being restored, of the community's strength being literally rebuilt bite by bite. As bellies fill and the initial ravenous hunger subsides, a deep sense of peace settles over the band. The fire crackles and spits, the only loud voice in the quiet of the evening. It is now that the second part of the feast begins, the feast of story. An older hunter, his face illuminated by the flickering light, begins to speak. He does not use a complex, structured language, but a powerful combination of sounds, gestures, and expressions. He recounts the day's hunt. He becomes the bison, his hands mimicking its horns. He becomes the hunter, his body coiled and silent in the stock. He reenacts the explosive moment of the ambush with a sudden shout, making the children jump and then laugh. Everyone present lived parts of this story, but in the telling, it is transformed. It becomes more than just a sequence of events. It becomes a shared memory, a lesson in strategy, and a myth in the making. This story will be told again, solidifying the band's identity and reinforcing the knowledge needed to survive. The story ends. The rhythm of a hand tapping on a log fades into the night. The great work of the day is done. The children, full and tired, are already curled up asleep in the warmth of the hides. A deep, quiet contentment fills the circle of light. Now, in the peace that follows, other thoughts can surface. Thoughts born not of hunger or fear, but of the deep, mysterious wellspring of the human mind itself.
The great fire, once the roaring center of the feast, is now allowed to dwindle. It has served its purpose, and its embers are gently banked with ash to preserve the precious heat through the long, cold night. The stories have been told, the bellies are full, and a profound, satiated quiet has descended upon the camp. Most of the band is already lost to sleep, their forms dark, still mounds under the heavy hides. But a few remain awake, their gazes lost in the hypnotic, deep orange pulse of the fire's dying heart. It is in these moments, suspended between the exhaustion of the day past and the demands of the day to come, that the human mind is set adrift on deeper currents. One of the young hunters who threw a spear today sits staring into the coals. He is not thinking of the next hunt, nor is he replaying the moment of the kill. His mind is filled with a quieter, more subtle set of images. He sees the face of a young woman as she accepted the piece of roasted liver he offered her, the best part of his share. He remembers the way her hands moved with such deftness earlier in the day as she wove a basket from river reeds. There are no words for what he feels, no poems or songs to define it. Romance in this world is a language of action, not of declaration. A bond is not forged with promises, but with demonstrations of competence and care. He has shown he is a capable hunter, a provider who can bring a windfall of life-sustaining meat back to the band. She, with her encyclopedic knowledge of the landscape, provides the steady, reliable sustenance that bridges the gaps between successful hunts. Their connection is built on this deep, mutual respect. It is an understanding that their skills are complementary, that together, their chances of survival and the survival of their future children are significantly stronger. A short distance away, she too is awake, her thoughts perhaps mirroring his. Their courtship is a quiet dance of proximity, of shared tasks, of food given and accepted. It is a bond as practical and as powerful as the sinew that binds a spear point to its shaft, a connection woven not for a season, but for a lifetime of shared winters and the raising of the next generation. Nearby, an older individual, his hunting days behind him, is engaged in a different kind of quiet work. He holds a fragment of a large bone, smoothed by years of handling. With a sharp flake of flint, He is idly scratching a series of lines onto its surface. He is not trying to create a masterpiece, nor is he consciously performing a ritual. He is simply tracing the shape that fills his mind, the great shaggy curve of the bison's back, the powerful arc of its horns. This small personal act is the very seed of art. It is the fundamental human impulse to record experience, to give form to memory, to make a mark upon the world that says, "I was here, I saw this." It is a thought made solid. Elsewhere in the camp, this same impulse is expressed in other ways. A necklace made of shells, carried hundreds of miles from a sea that is only a distant memory. A pattern of dots, painted with red ochre on a scraper's wooden handle. A single eagle feather tied carefully into a child's hair. These are not mere decorations. They are the first whispers of symbolism, the dawning of an understanding that life is not just about what is, but also about what things mean. Sleep finally claims the last waking mind. The small carved bone rests by the fire, a secret thought made solid. The camp is now truly asleep, resting and healing, gathering its strength for the uncertainties that the next light will surely bring. The fire has dwindled to a soft orange glow, a sleeping heart in the center of the camp. The deep, rhythmic breathing of the sleepers is the only sound that stirs the cold, still air of the deep night. The feast has fortified them, and sleep is rebuilding the strength they spent during the long day. But rest is not a simple thing in this world. It is a state of profound vulnerability, and healing is never a guarantee. For every visible triumph against the external world, like the great bison brought down in the ravine, there are countless invisible battles being waged within the body against infection, sickness, and the slow wear of a hard life. The greatest dangers are often the ones you cannot see. In the warmth of the huddled group lies one of the younger hunters, a key figure in the day's success. To an observer, he appears to be sleeping as soundly as the others, but his rest is fitful. A deep gash on his forearm, earned from the sharp edge of a shattered bone during the chaotic butchering, throbs with a life of its own. Before sleep, it was cleaned with cold water from the stream and packed with a poultice of chewed leaves and moss, a technique passed down through generations. The leaves are known to quiet the fire of a wound, to draw out its bad spirit. But tonight, the fire is growing. A fever is building within him, a silent internal war being fought by a body with no defense beyond its own resilience. His dreams are not of the hunt, but are fragmented, feverish visions, and he shivers despite the warmth of the sleepers beside him. Survival here depends not only on the strength of the hunters or the wisdom of the foragers, but on this deep empirical knowledge of healing. The band has a keeper of this knowledge, an older woman who has seen more seasons than anyone else. She is part shaman, part herbalist. Her memory is a living pharmacopoeia, a catalog of the plants that can soothe a cough, ease a bellyache, or, like the willow bark she sometimes prepares, dull the sharpest edges of pain. She understands that some wounds heal with a clean scar, while others begin to weep and smell of decay, a sure sign that the body is losing its fight. Her medicine is a blend of the practical and the spiritual. A healing chant is sung with the same intention and focus as the grinding of a root for a salve. In their world, the spirit and the flesh are not separate. To heal one is to attend to the other. Earlier in the evening, she had examined the young hunter's arm, her weathered fingers gently probing the hot, swollen skin around the gash. Her expression was unreadable, but her actions were deliberate. She had prepared the poultice, binding it tightly with a strip of soft leather,
her touch both a physical treatment and a silent reassurance to the group. Now, even in the deep of the night, she seems to sense the turning of the tide. She rises from her sleeping place, a silent shadow in the dying firelight, and moves to the young man's side. She places a hand on his forehead, feeling the unnatural heat. She does not wake him. There is nothing more to be done but to let his body fight, aided by the power of the plants and the strength of the band's collective will. She adds a single slow-burning log to the fire, a quiet vigil against the cold and the dark. As the first hint of gray light touches the eastern sky, the battle within the hunter's body remains undecided. The new day will bring with it a verdict, a reminder that the greatest struggles in this life are often not fought in the open ravine with a spear, but in the silent, invisible spaces within the body itself.
The gray light of dawn seeps into the camp, slowly dissolving the deep shadows of the night. It is a quiet, gentle awakening, the world returning to form and color. The fire is stirred back to life, its smoke rising in a straight, thin column in the still morning air. One by one, the band wakes to the familiar morning chill. But today, the atmosphere is different. A quiet tension lingers from the unresolved battle of the night. All eyes turn first to the young hunter, and then to the old woman who sits beside him, her vigil unbroken. She places her hand on his brow once more. The fierce heat from the night before has subsided. The fever has broken. A collective, unspoken sigh of relief passes through the group. He will live. But the victory is not absolute. When his eyes finally open, they are clouded with exhaustion. The infection has taken a heavy toll on his strength. He is weak, dehydrated, and the arm with the gash is swollen and painful. He is in no condition to hunt or even to walk far from the camp. The verdict of the dawn is clear. He has survived the immediate crisis, but he is now an invalid, dependent on the care of others. The dynamic of the group shifts instantly and without discussion. The triumphant energy of yesterday is replaced by a quieter, more nurturing focus. The hunter who provided the feast is now the one who must be provided for. This is the unwritten law of their existence, the social contract that allows them to endure. Their strength lies not in the invincibility of any one member, but in the collective resilience of the whole. The day's rhythm is different. There will be no great hunt today. The other hunters, while relieved, know that the burden on them has now doubled. For now, however, the priority is consolidation and care. The bounty from the bison is the camp's central project. The great hide, which was roughly scraped the night before, is now the focus of several women. They work with sharp flint scrapers, their movements practiced and efficient, removing every last trace of flesh and fat. Later, it will be stretched on a wooden frame to dry in the sun, the first step in a long process to turn it into supple, durable leather. Other members of the band are busy with the meat. Using sharp flakes of stone, they slice the muscle into thin, uniform strips. These strips are then laid out on wooden racks built near the fire, where the combination of the sun's heat and the rising smoke will slowly draw out the moisture, preserving the meat for the weeks to come. This is the work of foresight, the creation of a buffer against the constant uncertainty of their world. Every strip of meat that is dried is a hedge against a future failed hunt, a day of bad weather, or another injury. The injured hunter is not forgotten. He is given water to drink from a turtle shell bowl. A simple, warm broth made by dropping hot stones into a hide bag filled with water and cracked bones, is brought to him. It is a potent, nourishing soup that will help him regain his strength. His wound is unwrapped, cleaned, and redressed with a fresh poultice of leaves. He is not isolated. He remains in the center of the camp's life, a visible reminder of both their fragility and their capacity for care. The children watch all of this, absorbing the lessons of the day: how to process a kill, how to care for the sick, how the rhythm of life can shift from a triumphant chase one day to quiet, patient work the next. The meat dries, a promise of future meals. The hunter sleeps, a promise of future strength. The band is secure for now, but the seasons are turning and the land around them is not infinite. Soon a decision will have to be made. Soon they will have to move on.
The strips of bison meat are now dry, shrunken into tough, dark ribbons of pure protein. They are lightweight, packed with energy, and will not spoil for many weeks. This is their wealth, their security against the unknown. The young hunter's arm is healing, the angry red of the infection slowly fading, though his strength is not yet fully returned. The camp is a place of temporary peace and plenty, but this abundance is an illusion, a fleeting moment in a much larger cycle of movement and scarcity. For these people, home is not a place on the ground, but a portable circle of community, a fire that can be carried and rekindled, and the land around them is beginning to speak in a quiet but insistent voice, telling them it is time to move on. The signs are subtle, but they are read by everyone. The foragers must now walk farther from the camp to find the same patches of edible roots. The berry bushes in the immediate vicinity have been picked clean. The smaller animals, the lizards and birds that were once a reliable supplement to their diet, have grown wary and scarce, retreating from this small pocket of human activity. The hunters, too, must travel for half a day before they cross the tracks of any large herds. This small territory has given them its most accessible gifts, and now its offerings are thinning. There is a silent consensus that builds like the pressure before a storm. An elder points to the dwindling pile of firewood. The lead hunter gazes at the distant hills, a place they have not been to since the previous year. A quiet, shared understanding flows through the band. Tomorrow, they will walk. The morning of the departure is a masterpiece of efficient, practiced motion. There is no wasted energy, no debate. Everyone knows their role. The great hides that formed their bedding and shelters are shaken out and folded into dense, heavy bundles. The dried meat is carefully packed into bags of skin. The precious collection of tools, axes, scrapers, and awls are secured. Everyone is responsible for their own small kit, but the larger burdens are shared. The youngest children, not yet able to keep up with the steady pace of a day's walk, are settled into slings on their mothers' or older siblings' backs, their wide eyes taking in the quiet bustle. The final and most sacred task is to pack the fire. The fire is never allowed to die. To create a new one from scratch is a difficult, time-consuming process, and a journey without fire is a journey into unimaginable danger. The keeper of the flame, the woman who watched over the injured hunter, carefully selects the heart of the fire. A single, large coal, glowing with intense contained heat. Using 2 pieces of thick bark as tongs, she places it into a hollowed-out stone, lined with a thick bed of dry moss and fungus. This material will not burst into flame, but will smolder slowly for hours. A living seed of the fire they are leaving behind.
The responsibility for carrying this ember is immense. It is to carry the life of the band in one's hands. With their world bundled and hoisted onto their backs, they are ready. They stand for a moment in the place that has been their home. All that remains is a circle of ash and stone, some scattered, well-gnawed bones, and the faint impressions in the earth where they slept. The wilderness will reclaim this spot in a matter of weeks. They turn their backs on it without ceremony. Their faces are turned toward the horizon, toward a place they know only in memory or story, the next temporary anchor in the endless river of their journey. They are a small, slow-moving island of humanity in a vast, green ocean of wilderness. The journey is the dominant rhythm of their lives, a constant state of being that exists between the temporary anchors of their campsites. To walk is as natural as to breathe, but it is not an easy thing. Every member of the band, from the oldest to the youngest who can keep pace, is burdened. The weight of their folded hide shelters, their precious store of dried meat, their heavy stone tools, and the children too small to walk, is a constant, grinding presence. This is not a hike or an exploration. It is the physical act of moving their entire world on their own backs. Their bodies are hardened to this life, their feet tough and calloused, their muscles conditioned for endurance. Yet the strain is immense. They walk with a steady, plodding rhythm, a pace that can be maintained from sunrise to sunset, conserving every ounce of energy for the long miles ahead. The path they follow is invisible, a route that exists not on the ground but in the mind of the group's most experienced navigator. It is a map woven from memory, landmark, and story. They move toward a distant notch in a line of hills, a feature that has a name in their language known only to them. They know that once they reach it, a stream will be on the other side, a reliable source of water described in the tales of their ancestors who walked this same path generations ago. The leader reads the landscape with an effortless fluency. The direction of the sun, the patterns of the clouds, the flight of birds, the tracks of other animals, all of it is information, guiding their way. This is a form of intelligence that is deep and profound, a total, immersive understanding of the natural world that has been all but lost to us. They are not passing through a landscape, they are in a constant, dynamic conversation with it. The group moves in a practiced, defensive formation. A few of the hunters walk at the front, their eyes scanning for both opportunity and danger. The women and children, the carriers of the future, are protected in the center. Here too, wrapped with the utmost care, is the smoldering ember, the precious seed of fire that is the heart of their society. The person carrying it walks with a focused, reverent gait, their responsibility absolute. Another hunter walks at the rear, constantly looking back, ensuring no one is left behind and that they are not being followed. To be separated from the group on this journey is to be lost, a single, vulnerable life in an unforgiving wilderness. The pace is set by the slowest among them, by the pregnant woman or the elder whose joints ache with the cold of the morning. The strength of their chain is the strength of its weakest link, a lesson they understand in their very bones. They endure the changing moods of the day. A sudden, cold rain shower sends them huddling for a few moments under the great bison hide, its waterproof surface a temporary roof, until the squall passes. A sharp wind picks up on an open plain, forcing them to lean into it, their eyes narrowed to slits. They stop only for brief moments to drink from a stream or to allow a child to rest. As the sun dips low, casting immense, elongated shadows before them, the leader signals a halt. He has found what he was looking for, a defensible overhang of rock near a source of fresh water. Here they will rest. The long walk is over for today. Now the work of turning a patch of wild earth into a home for the night begins, starting with the careful unwrapping of the precious. The great hide sledge is lowered to the ground, and the heavy burdens are released from aching shoulders. A collective sigh of exhaustion and relief ripples through the small band. The sun has already touched the western horizon, and the air is rapidly growing cold. There is no time to waste. The creation of a home, even one that will last only until the next dawn, is a race against the coming darkness and the drop in temperature. All activity orbits around a single critical task, the rebirth of the fire. The keeper of the flame, the woman entrusted with the precious ember, kneels on the cold ground. She has already prepared a small protected nest of the finest, driest tinder she could find. The feathery fibers from a seed pod, a bit of shredded bark, and the dusk from a rotten log. With the gentle reverence of a priestess, she unwraps the smoldering coal. Its inner glow is a deep, promising red. She carefully places this heart into the center of the tinder and begins to blow, not with force, but with a long, steady, life-giving breath. The members of the band watch in silence, their fatigue forgotten for a moment. This is the most crucial act of their day. A wisp of smoke appears, then another. The tinder begins to blacken and glow in sympathy with the ember. A tiny, hesitant tongue of yellow flame flickers, struggles, and then catches. It grows, and as she feeds it the smallest of twigs, the fire is born anew in this strange place. A shared internal tension releases from the group. They have their anchor. They have their center. With the fire established and growing, the rest of the camp is assembled with practiced speed. The rock overhang provides a natural roof and a solid wall against the wind. The great bison hide is not used as a shelter itself, but is propped against the opening of the overhang, creating a semi-enclosed space that will trap the fire's heat and offer protection from the open night. Other hides are unrolled upon the ground, a vital layer of insulation against the cold that leaches from the stone. While this is happening, two of the hunters conduct a quick, silent patrol of the immediate area, their eyes and ears straining to catch any sign of recent predator activity. They are assessing the safety of this new location, learning its sounds and smells, committing its layout to their short-term memory. The evening meal is simple and efficient. There is no grand feast tonight. The band is too weary and their resources too precious to squander. They gather around the fire and eat the dried strips of meat they have carried. The tough, smoky flavor, a concentrated reminder of their recent success. The meat requires long, powerful chewing, but it is rich with the energy they will need for the next day's walk. They refill their water skins from the nearby stream, the cold, clear water a balm for their tired bodies. There is little talk. The epic storytelling of their more permanent camp is absent here. The energy is conserved, turned inward. The sounds of chewing, of the crackling fire, of a parent quietly soothing a restless child. They are tired, but they are also alert. The sounds of this new place are unfamiliar. The call of a different night bird, the rustle of an unknown creature in the darkness beyond their circle of light. Their senses remain on a knife's edge. As the last of the meal is finished, they prepare for sleep. A watch is set, one person who will stay awake to feed the fire and listen to the language of the new night. The new camp is born, a temporary constellation of life around a star of fire. Sleep will not be as deep here as in a familiar place, but it will be enough. For tomorrow, the journey continues. Tomorrow, this home will be unmade as quickly as it was created, and the river of their life will flow onward. The dawn arrives, and with it, the swift and silent unmaking of the temporary home. The process is a mirror image of the previous evening's work, a testament to a life of constant practice. Hides are rolled, tools are secured, and the fire is once again captured, its life preserved in a smoldering ember. Before the sun has fully cleared the horizon, the band is walking again, a small dark line of humanity moving with quiet purpose across the awakening landscape. The river of their life flows onward, and to be a part of it is to understand that stillness is the exception and movement is the rule. To exist in this state of perpetual motion is to cultivate a unique state of mind. Their senses are never truly at rest. The journey is not a monotonous task to be endured between 2 points, but a continuous act of observation and engagement with the world. Every rock, every tree, every shift in the wind is a piece of information. The mind of the traveler is a constantly updating map, absorbing new details while simultaneously navigating by the ancient, inherited knowledge of the old. A hunter's eyes are always scanning for signs of game, not with the focused intensity of the stalk, but with a background alertness, a constant, low-level hum of awareness. A forager might spot a flash of color in a passing thicket, a plant known for its healing properties, and in a few deft movements harvest a small amount, without ever breaking the group's stride. This is not a march. It is a flowing, opportunistic engagement with the world. The journey itself is the classroom for the next generation. The world is their textbook, and the elders are their teachers. An old man pauses, pointing a single steady finger at the ground. He gathers the children around and shows them a series of deep circular prints in the dried mud. He makes a low, rumbling sound in his chest and mimes the act of a great cat leaping, its claws extended. The children's eyes widen. They have just learned to read a new and vital word in the language of the earth. This is where a saber-tooth has passed. They learn not to fear the sign, but to respect it, to understand the story it tells of a power that shares this world with them. They learn the names of the distant mountains and the stories that are attached to them, tales of great hunts, of spirits that dwell on the peaks, of the ancestors who first walked this path. The landscape is not just geography, it is their history, their mythology, their identity. To maintain cohesion over the long, silent miles, a low, rhythmic chant sometimes rises from the group. It is not a song with words, but a series of resonant, humming sounds that helps them keep a steady pace, a sonic thread that binds them together. It is a shared breath, a reminder that they are not alone in their effort. The young hunter, his arm now healing cleanly, walks steadily among them. His share of the load is lighter, carried by others in a quiet, unquestioned act of support. His temporary weakness is absorbed by the collective strength of the group, a social reality as vital to their survival as any spear or fire. They are not wandering aimlessly. They are moving with purpose toward a specific destination held in their collective memory. It is a valley carved by an ancient river, a place of seasonal abundance. They know that at this time of year, the river will be running thick with fish, and the caves in the walls will offer a deep, dry shelter, far superior to any temporary windbreak. This knowledge gives their hardship a purpose, transforming it from a struggle into a pilgrimage. The landmark they have been seeking for days now stands clear on the horizon. The long walk is almost over. A sense of relief and quiet anticipation ripples through the group. They are approaching not just a place, but a promise. A promise of water, of food, and of a home that can last longer than a single night. They are returning.
As they draw closer, the air itself begins to change. It grows cooler, carrying the damp, clean scent of moving water and the rich aroma of dense vegetation. The weary band leaves the wide, sun-beaten plains behind and enters the mouth of the valley. This is the place they have been holding in their minds for days, the destination that pulled them forward through every arduous mile. It is a homecoming. Though they have been absent for a year or more, their bodies remember this place. They recognize the way the wind whispers through a particular gap in the rocks, the familiar shape of a great, gnarled tree that grows by the riverbank, the specific echo their footsteps make as they walk on the stony ground. This is not just a random piece of geography. It is a part of their ancestral territory, a chapter in their long, unwritten history. The valley is a sanctuary of life, a river, wider and more powerful than the small streams they crossed on their journey, snakes through its center, its surface glittering in the afternoon sun. The walls of the valley rise on either side, great limestone cliffs carved by millennia of water and ice. And it is in these cliffs that their promise of a true home lies, the dark, inviting mouths of caves. They do not head for them with blind relief, however. A place this good, this rich in water and shelter, is a valuable prize, and it may not be unoccupied. The families and the elders wait at a safe distance, while the hunters, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten, move forward with the silent, cautious grace of their trade. They are reading the signs again, checking the ground before the largest, most promising cave for fresh tracks. They sniff the air for the scent of a predator. Competition for a prime shelter like this is a real and constant danger, and an encounter with a cave bear or a den of lions would be a disastrous end to their long journey. The lead hunter gives a low, soft call. The cave is empty. The signs are old. Relief, potent and palpable, washes over the band. Now they can claim their home. The process of making this new camp is deliberate and methodical, different from the rushed assembly of their overnight stops. This is a home they may inhabit for an entire season. The first and most sacred act is to establish the fire. The smoldering ember, carried with such care across the plains, is brought into the cool, dry darkness of the cave. A new hearth is built, a careful ring of stones in the center of the main chamber, a place where the smoke will be drawn upwards and out through a natural fissure in the ceiling. As the new fire catches and its light flickers to life, it transforms the empty, echoing space into a human place. The fire's glow pushes back the ancient darkness and paints dancing shadows on the stone walls. The rest of their world is unpacked and organized with an innate sense of spatial logic. The deep, protected rear of the cave is designated as the primary sleeping area, the place safest from wind and predators. Here, the great hides are unrolled, creating a communal bed of warmth and relative comfort. The area near the mouth of the cave, where the light is best, is set aside for work.
the place where new tools will be napped from river stones, and where hides will be scraped and prepared. The remaining dried meat is stored in a high, dry crevice, away from moisture and scavengers. The work is completed as dusk settles over the valley. The fire paints dancing shadows on the ancient stone walls. For the first time in many days, they are surrounded by a silence that feels like safety, not exposure. They have not just found a shelter, they have re-established a home. From this new center, the story of their lives will unfold, guided by the rhythms of the river and the opportunities of this rich new land. The first dawn in the new home arrives not with a shock of cold open air, but as a soft, indirect light that filters into the mouth of the cave. Waking here is a different experience. The air is still and cool, free from the bite of the wind. The solid stone walls that surround them offer a profound, almost forgotten sense of security. The sounds are muted. The echo of the nearby river, a constant, gentle murmur that replaces the sharp, unpredictable noises of the open plain. The band stirs with a new kind of energy, one born not of urgency and survival, but of purpose and potential. The journey is over, and the long work of living in this new place can now begin. This first day is not for a great hunt. It is a day of reconnaissance, of reacquainting themselves with a land that is both familiar and changed. After a simple meal of dried meat, the band once again divides, but this time with a shared local purpose. The foragers, led by the elder woman, make their way into the valley. For them, this is like returning to a cherished library after a long absence. They move with an excited yet professional curiosity. They know the old map of this place from memory, but a season of sun and rain can rewrite entire passages. They are looking for what has changed, what has grown, and what is new. They find a thick patch of wild onions growing by the riverbank, a pungent prize they did not expect. They check the state of the large nut trees, noting the first signs of budding that promise a rich harvest in the months to come. Their baskets do not fill as quickly as they might on a dedicated forage, for today their primary harvest is not food, but information. They are rebuilding their mental atlas of this territory, updating its pages with fresh knowledge. The hunters, including the young man whose arm is now strong enough for a long walk, also set out to explore. They are not seeking a kill, but a deeper understanding of the valley's inhabitants. They move along the game trails, their eyes on the ground, reading the stories left in the mud. They find the tracks of wild horses, deer, and, near the cliffs, wild goats. They also find the scat of a large cave lion, a fresh reminder that they are not the valley's only predators. They note the best places for an ambush, the natural funnels in the terrain, the places where the animals come to drink. They are not just mapping the location of their prey. They are mapping the complex, interwoven dynamics of the entire ecosystem. The river itself becomes a new focus of activity. It is a constant, inexhaustible source of clean, cold water, a luxury that feels profound after the careful rationing of the journey. For the first time in a long while, they can drink their fill without a second thought. A few members of the band try their hand at fishing, a skill less practiced than hunting on the plains.
Wading into the shallows, they use their sharp throwing spears, not with the force of the hunt, but with a lightning-fast jab to impale the small silvery fish that dart among the rocks. Their first attempts are clumsy, but soon they have a handful of fish, a new and welcome addition to their diet. Back at the cave, the home is being improved. More dried grass and soft ferns are gathered from the valley floor to create thick, comfortable beds. The fire pit is reinforced with carefully chosen river stones that will hold and reflect the heat more efficiently. A large flat rock near the cave entrance is cleaned and established as a dedicated workspace for tool making. As the firelight once again fills the cave at the end of the day, it illuminates a space that is no longer just a shelter, but is truly becoming their home. The map of this valley is beginning to reform in their minds, its promises taking shape. The river has offered its first gifts, and the land has hinted at its secrets. The long period of stability, the time for true growth and renewal, has begun.
The rhythm of life in the new valley has settled. The days are no longer defined by the arduous march of the journey, but by the steady, productive pulse of a home. With the immediate concerns of shelter and exploration addressed, and with the river and the land providing a steady supply of food, a different kind of industry can now flourish. The period of stability allows for the time and focused energy required for one of their most essential and intellectually demanding tasks: the creation and refinement of their tools. The band's survival kit, carried on their backs for many miles, must be replenished and improved. New challenges and opportunities in this valley will require new, perfectly honed instruments. The work begins with a search. Not every stone is a potential tool. An experienced toolmaker, a napper, will walk the gravel bars of the river, his eyes scanning the millions of rounded cobbles. He is looking for a specific type of stone, a fine-grained flint or chert, something with a smooth, almost waxy texture. He picks up a promising candidate, feeling its weight and density in his palm. He taps it with a small hammerstone, listening intently to the sound it makes. A dull thud signals a flawed, fractured stone that will break unpredictably, but a high-pitched, clear ring is the sound of promise. It tells of a solid, homogeneous interior, a stone that will fracture in a controlled, predictable way under the force of a skilled hand. This selection process is a form of geological science, an intuitive knowledge of physics and mineralogy, passed down not through books, but through observation and touch. Back at the mouth of the cave, in the clear morning light, the master craftsman sits before his workshop. It is nothing more than a large, flat stone that serves as an anvil, and a collection of hammerstones of varying sizes and materials. He takes a large, chosen cobble and, with a powerful and precise strike from a heavy stone, breaks it in two. This single, violent act reveals the raw potential within, a fresh, glassy surface ready to be shaped. The first stage is one of brute force married with immense control. Using a large hammerstone, he begins to strike the edges, removing big, thick flakes. Each strike is a calculation of angle and force, designed to rough out the general shape of the tool he sees in his mind. He might be crafting a heavy, teardrop-shaped hand axe, a versatile instrument for chopping wood, breaking bone, and butchering. Or he may be shaping a thinner, more leaf-like form, the precursor to a spear point. As the rough shape emerges, the work becomes finer. He sets aside the heavy hammerstone and picks up a billet of deer antler. The antler is softer than stone, allowing for the removal of thinner, wider flakes with more control. The sharp crack of stone on stone is replaced by a softer, more resonant thud. The tool is thinned, its edges straightened and made sharper. The pile of razor-sharp debitage, the waste flakes, grows around him, each piece a potential small cutting tool in its own right. The final stage is an act of supreme focus and delicacy. For a spear point, the edge must not just sharp, but perfectly straight and symmetrical. He now uses pressure flaking, pressing the tip of a pointed bone against the edge of the flint to push off tiny, controlled flakes. It is a quiet, intimate process, a direct dialogue between the craftsman and the stone. The tool that lies finished in his palm is a marvel of form and function. Its edges are sharper than any steel blade. Its shape is perfectly balanced. It is more than just a piece of rock. It is a thought made lethal, a plan for the future held in the hand. With tools like these, honed from the bones of the earth, the band is ready to truly master this new valley, turning its potential into their own continued existence. The new spear point, cool and perfect, is set aside, its purpose waiting. The work of the napper is a solitary, focused art, but its fruits belong to the entire band, not just for today, but for all the days to come. This continuity, this passing of skill and knowledge through time, is the invisible thread that holds their world together. And the living vessels for this inheritance are the children. Now, in the relative safety and stability of the new valley, the world of the children can truly come alive. While the adults are engaged in the ceaseless, demanding tasks of survival, the younger members of the band inhabit a parallel world, one of play, imitation, and constant, unfiltered learning. Their playground is the world itself, the area around the mouth of the cave, the sun-drenched banks of the river, the edge of the nearby woods. This is their domain. There are no toys, no manufactured objects designed for amusement. Their playthings are the raw materials of their existence. Sticks that become spears, rounded stones that become herd animals, handfuls of mud that are shaped into crude figures. A group of young boys, none older than 8, spend hours by the river, practicing a game that is also a lesson. They throw flat stones, not to skip them, but to hit a particular spot on a fallen log. It is a game of skill, of who can come closest. But it is also the first fundamental training for the hunt. They are learning to judge distance, to account for wind, to coordinate their eyes and their arms in a single fluid motion. They are teaching their bodies the physics of the thrown projectile, a lesson that will one day mean the difference between a successful hunt and a hungry night. Play is not a diversion from the real world. It is a direct and immersive preparation for it. A young girl, too small to join the main foraging party, creates her own small version of the task. She gathers leaves of different shapes and sizes, arranging them in patterns on a flat rock. She crushes a fragrant one between her fingers, smelling it, learning to identify its unique scent. She is not just playing, she is building the foundations of her own mental library of the natural world. An elder, sitting nearby and quietly scraping a hide, watches her. He does not interfere or instruct, but he observes, ready to intervene with a quiet gesture if she were to reach for a plant that is known to be harmful. Discipline in this world is immediate, practical, and born of necessity. There are no abstract rules, only the hard lessons of cause and effect. A toddler, fascinated by the dancing flames of the fire, reaches a curious hand toward it. Before his fingers can touch the heat, a firm hand gently but irresistibly pulls him back. There is no angry shout, just a low, guttural sound of warning and a shake of the head. The lesson is clear, physical, and absolute. Fire is a source of warmth, but it is also a source of pain. The river is a source of water and fish, but its current is a danger. The beautiful, brightly colored insect may have a painful sting. These are the core tenets of their education, taught and reinforced by every adult in the band. Parenting is a communal responsibility, a shared investment in the future. As the sun begins to set, the children, exhausted from a day of running, throwing, exploring, and learning, are drawn back to the safety of the fire. They are the first to succumb to sleep, their small bodies curled up in the communal sleeping area, their minds processing the immense sensory input of the day. As they sleep, their hands still clutching a smooth river stone or a bird's feather, they are not just resting. They are growing, their minds and bodies absorbing the lessons of the day. They are the living embodiment of continuity, the promise that the skills, the stories, and the spirit of the band will not fade with the dying embers of the fire, but will be carried forward into the dawns yet to come.
The children are asleep, their small forms lost in the deep peace of the communal sleeping hides. The fire has been fed, and its steady, rhythmic dance casts a warm and living light against the ancient stone of the cave. The adults sit in the quiet aftermath of the day, a comfortable silence filled only by the crackle of the flames. It is in these moments of shared peace and security, the human spirit, freed from the relentless demands of survival, can begin to explore its own mysterious depths. The continuity of the band is secure in the sleeping children. Now, the adults can create a continuity of a different kind, one of memory, spirit, and meaning. For days, one of the hunters has been working with a piece of soft red rock he found by the river. It is ochre, the color of blood and of the setting sun. With a smooth, hard stone, he has been patiently grinding it into a fine, rich powder. This is not for a tool, nor is it for a practical purpose that can be easily defined. It is for something else, an impulse that has been building within him since the great hunt. Now, in the quiet of the evening, he takes a small amount of the red dust in a hollowed-out stone bowl and mixes it with animal fat, creating a thick, vibrant paste. He approaches a wide, smooth section of the cave wall, a blank canvas of pale limestone that has waited in darkness for 1,000,000 years. The others watch him, their curiosity piqued, but their silence respectful. This is a familiar, yet still profound event. Using his fingers as his brush, the hunter begins to draw. The flickering firelight is his only guide, and it is a magical one. The shadows and highlights it creates give the flat stone an illusion of depth and texture. His first strokes are bold and certain, a long, sweeping curve that perfectly captures the great shaggy hump of the bison's back. He is not copying a scene. He is summoning a memory, a feeling. He knows the anatomy of this animal, not from a distance, but from the inside out. He knows the power in its shoulders, the weight of his head, the way its muscles bunch before a charge. All this knowledge, stored in his body and his mind, flows through his fingers and onto the wall. He uses a piece of burnt wood from the fire to draw the dark, sharp points of the horns and the deep, intelligent eye. He uses the red ochre paste to fill in the great body, smearing it with the heel of his hand to suggest the texture of its thick fur.
The firelight animates his creation. As the flames leap and fall, the shadows on the wall shift, and for a fleeting moment, the bison seems to breathe. Its legs appear to tense, ready to spring from the rock. Why does he do this? He could not answer if asked. It is not simply to decorate his home. Perhaps it is a form of magic, a ritual to honor the spirit of the animal he helped to kill, ensuring that its kin will offer themselves to the hunters again in the future. Or perhaps it is a history lesson, a way to fix the story of their great hunt in a form that will outlast the spoken word, a way to show the children the great beasts they will one day face. Or perhaps it is something deeper still, an attempt to bring the wild, dangerous, and unpredictable world from outside into this safe, controlled human space. By capturing the image of the great beast, he gains a kind of understanding over it, transforming a source of fear and struggle into a thing of beauty and meaning. He steps back, his work complete. The bison on the wall is more than an image. It is a memory, a prayer, a story fixed in stone. The cave is no longer just a place to sleep out of the wind. It has been transformed into a place of meaning, a sanctuary where the physical world and the world of the mind can meet. It has become the first true library.
The bison on the wall watches over the sleeping camp. In the deep stillness of the night, with only the soft orange glow of the embers for light, the image seems to have a presence, a weight. It is a silent, powerful observer, a bridge between the world of memory and the world of stone. The creation of this image has fundamentally altered the nature of the cave. It has become more than a home. It has become a sanctuary, a place where the veil between the visible world and the invisible one feels thin. For these people, this veil is not a barrier, but a permeable membrane through which power, knowledge, and life itself constantly flow. Their world is not divided into the living and the inert. Everything is alive, and everything has a spirit. The river that flows through the valley is not just a body of water. It is a living entity with its own moods and intentions. The great mountain that looms over their horizon is not just a pile of rock. It is a sleeping giant, a keeper of ancient wisdom. And the animals they hunt are not just walking caches of meat and hide. They are other peoples, other nations, with their own societies, spirits, and power. To take the life of a bison is to enter into a complex, sacred negotiation with the spirit of the bison itself. Survival depends on keeping this relationship in balance. The mediator in this great negotiation is the shaman. She is the old woman who is both healer and spiritual guide, the one whose eyes can see into the hidden architecture of the world. Her authority comes not from force, but from her deep connection to this other world, a connection she cultivates through dreams, visions, and ancient memorized rituals. Now, in the quiet of the late night, long after the others have fallen asleep, she sits before the new painting. This is her work, her responsibility. The hunter's hand created the image, but it is her job to consecrate it, to make it a functioning channel between the two worlds. She begins a low, rhythmic chant, a wordless melody that seems to rise from the very earth itself. She holds a single eagle feather, a sacred object, and uses it to trace the outline of the bison on the wall, though she does not touch the stone.
She is tracing its spirit form. Her chant is accompanied by the soft, hypnotic beat of a hand tapping on a dried piece of hide stretched over a frame, a simple drum whose rhythm is the heartbeat of the world. Her eyes, open but unfocused, are looking not at the painting, but through it. She is on a journey. In her trance, she is traveling the spirit path, following the bison's tracks into the great dark void where the archetypes of all living things reside. She goes to thank the spirit of the bison for its gift, to assure it that its body will be honored, that its life will sustain the lives of the people, and that the balance will be maintained. For the band, this is not a performance or a superstition. It is a vital spiritual technology. The shaman's journey ensures that the herds will remain plentiful, that the animals will continue to offer themselves to the hunters. Her work maintains the cosmic order upon which their very existence depends. The painting on the wall is the focal point for this technology, a physical gateway that helps her to cross the threshold. It is a map for her journey and an anchor that ensures her safe return. The rhythm of the chant fades, leaving only the sound of the fire. The shaman, returned from her journey, is once again just an old woman, weary but calm. The balance is restored. The connection to the spirit of the world has been reaffirmed. The band can now sleep in a home that is not just physically safe, but spiritually sound, protected by the alliances they have forged with the great, unseen powers of their world. The morning after the ritual dawns with a subtle but palpable sense of peace. The bison on the wall seems to have settled into the stone, its spiritual power now a quiet, protective presence within their home. This feeling of a world in balance, both seen and unseen, allows the focus of the band to turn inward, from the great spirits of the world to the small, practical maintenance of their own bodies. In a life where the body is the primary instrument of survival, its upkeep is not a matter of vanity, but of essential function. With the sun warming the valley, a small group makes its way down the gentle slope from the cave to the riverbank. It is mostly women and children, their tasks for the day centered around the life-giving water. For the first time since their arrival, the water is not just for drinking or a quick rinse of the hands. Today, it is for bathing. The children, shedding their simple hide coverings, splash into the shallows with joyous shrieks, their play a stark contrast to the deliberate purpose of the adults. The women wade into the current, the shock of the cold water a sharp, invigorating sting. There is no soap. Their cleaning tools are the materials of the river itself. They scoop up handfuls of coarse sand and fine gravel, using it as an abrasive scrub to remove the accumulated grime of travel, the smoke from the fire, and the dried blood of the hunt. It is a harsh but effective exfoliation, leaving the skin raw but clean. Afterward, sitting on sun-warmed rocks, they engage in another act of practical hygiene. From a small leather pouch, one woman takes a dollop of rendered bison fat, now a soft, creamy pomade. She methodically works it into her skin and the skin of her children. To a modern mind, it seems a strange way to feel clean, but for them, its logic is perfect. The fat is a barrier against the biting insects that swarm near the water. It is a sealant against the cold, providing a thin, extra layer of insulation. And it is a moisturizer, preventing their skin from cracking and splitting in the dry air, an injury that could easily become a dangerous infection. This is also a time for grooming, an activity that is as much about social bonding as it is about cleanliness. A mother sits with her young daughter between her knees, her fingers moving with patient skill through the child's thick, dark hair. She is not just detangling it, she is searching for lice and other parasites, a constant and unavoidable part of their existence. Her search is a quiet act of intimacy and care. Nearby, an older man sits by himself, chewing on the frayed end of a fibrous stick, rubbing it methodically against his teeth and gums. His diet of tough meat and gritty stone-ground plants has worn his teeth down over the years, but this simple act helps to keep them free of decay. While they are at the river, other hides and clothes are tended to. They are not washed in the water, a process that would make the untreated skins stiff and brittle. Instead, they are laid over rocks and scraped methodically with crescent-shaped stone tools, the accumulated dirt and grease flaking away. The entire process is embedded in a sensory world that is wholly different from our own. The air smells of wood smoke, of damp earth, of the raw scent of animal hide and fat, and of the people themselves. But this is the smell of home. It is the known, the familiar, the scent of their own small human world. They return to the cave, their skin tingling from the cold water, their bodies feeling lighter. It is a simple, creaturely comfort, a restoration of their own small, personal order. With their world both seen and unseen, now in a state of balance, the true long-term work of this season of stability can begin.
The fire is steady, their bellies are full, and their spirits are sound. This deep sense of security, born from a balanced world, allows the band to invest their energy in the long, patient work of transformation. All around the camp, the raw materials of the valley are being slowly and skillfully converted into the objects of their culture. But no transformation is as dramatic or as vital as that of the great bison hide. It lies now where it was scraped clean, a vast, stiff, and lifeless map of the animal it once was. Its potential is immense, but in its current state it is almost useless. If left to dry, it would become as hard and unyielding as a sheet of wood. The challenge is to coax it into a new kind of life, to turn it from a mere skin into a supple, flexible, and enduring material. The process begins with one of the most intimate and surprising acts of their technology. The brain of the bison, carefully saved during the butchering, is the key. This organ, the seat of the animal's own life and consciousness, contains natural oils and emulsifiers that are perfect for breaking down the stiff fibers of the hide. The women assigned to this task mash the brain in a stone bowl, mixing it with water to create a thick, grayish paste. There is no sentimentality in this act, only a profound and practical understanding of the cycle of life. The very essence of the animal is used to give its skin a second, lasting life in the service of the people. This tanning solution is then meticulously worked into every inch of the hide, the women's hands pushing and rubbing the paste deep into the pores. What follows is the most physically demanding part of the process, a marathon of labor that can last for days. The soaked hide is stretched taut on a large wooden frame. Then the work of breaking the fibers begins. Two women, one on each side, will take a section of the hide and twist it, wringing it out like a piece of cloth. They pull and stretch it over a smoothed, upright log, their bodies working in a steady, rhythmic unison. As the hide begins to dry, it constantly wants to stiffen, and their job is to fight that process at every moment. They scrape it with smooth-edged stone tools, they pull it, they stretch it, they twist it again and again. It is a relentless, exhausting dance. The children watch, learning the rhythm. The young girls take their turns.
their small hands learning the feel of the hide as it begins to soften, their muscles learning the ache of the work. This is how the knowledge is passed, not through words, but through shared, communal labor. When the hide is finally dry, it is pale, soft, and as flexible as a woven blanket. But the work is not yet done. To leave it like this would mean that the moment it got wet, it would dry stiff again. The final stage is to make this softness permanent. A small, smoldering fire of damp, punky wood is built, designed to produce a thick, pungent smoke with very little heat. The hide is sewn into a bag-like shape and suspended over this fire, trapping the smoke within. For hours, the hide is saturated with the smoke, which permeates the fibers and coats them, preventing them from ever locking together again. The process also transforms its color, turning the pale skin into a rich, beautiful shade of golden brown. At last, the great hide is taken down and unfolded. It is no longer just a skin. It is now leather, one of the most versatile and valuable materials of their world. It smells of earth and smoke. It is strong enough to resist tearing, yet soft enough to comfort a sleeping child. It is a promise of warmth against a future winter, a blank page on which new stories of survival will be written. With their tools sharp, their food stores growing, and their materials prepared, the band is not just living in this valley, they are thriving, weaving a complex and resilient culture in the heart of the wild. The great, smoked hide now rests in the cool of the cave, its rich, earthy scent a constant, comforting presence. It is a symbol of their success and a testament to their skill. But it is not a trophy. It is a resource, a blank slate of pure potential waiting for the final stage of its transformation. The long season of stability in this valley allows the band to move beyond the immediate, day-to-day struggle for food, and to invest their time in the patient, forward-thinking work of crafting. The raw materials have been gathered, and now the intricate process of turning them into the very fabric of their lives begins. The need is constant. The children grow, and the simple hide wraps that served them last season are now too small. The hunter's leggings and moccasins are scuffed and torn from the long journey. The forager's carrying bags, worn thin from countless harvests, need to be repaired or replaced. In the soft light near the mouth of the cave, a quiet workshop comes to life. It is a domestic scene, a space of calm, focused industry, primarily occupied by the women of the band, whose hands hold the patterns of these ancient crafts. One of them, a mother, unrolls the newly tanned bison hide. She does not see a single sheet of leather. She sees a complex puzzle. Her mind's eye maps out the pieces she will need, turning the hide this way and that in her imagination, ensuring that not a single valuable square inch is wasted. She sees a tunic for her growing son, a pair of moccasins for her partner, a small pouch for herself, all nested together in the most efficient way. Using a sharp piece of charcoal, she draws faint, confident lines directly onto the leather, her pattern stored not on paper, but in a memory refined by a lifetime of practice. The cutting is done with the sharpest tools they possess, not the heavy hand axes, but small, surgically sharp flakes of flint held carefully between thumb and forefinger. It requires a steady hand and a strong wrist to slice through the tough, supple leather, following the charcoal lines with precision. Once the pieces are cut, the true magic of their technology begins, the act of binding them together. The primary tool for this is the bone awl, a sharp, polished point used to pierce a line of small, neat holes along the edges of the cut leather. Then comes the needle, a sliver of polished bone, delicate yet strong, with a tiny, painstakingly drilled eye. The thread is the sinew, harvested from the bison's back, dried and then teased apart into incredibly fine, immensely strong filaments. The process of sewing is a slow, hypnotic rhythm. The awl punches a hole. The sinew-threaded needle follows. The stitch is tight and strong, designed to withstand the immense stresses of a life lived in motion. As the mother works on the child's tunic, her hands move with an unconscious grace. This is a skill she learned as a girl, watching her own mother in just this way. Around her, other women are engaged in similar tasks. One is mending a tear in a water skin. Another is weaving a tight basket from river reeds, her fingers a blur of motion. This is a time of quiet sociability, of shared work that reinforces the bonds of the community. The objects they create are first and foremost functional. A tunic must provide warmth. A bag must be strong enough to carry heavy roots. But their creations are rarely left plain. The mother cuts a simple fringe along the hem of her son's new tunic, a touch that gives the garment a sense of life and movement. Using a bit of red ochre mixed with water, she paints a small series of dots along the neckline, a pattern that has a meaning only to her family or band. It is a mark of identity, a whisper of beauty. This is the human impulse, to imbue the objects of survival with the signature of their spirit. The child tries on the new tunic. It is warm, strong, and fits perfectly. It is a garment made not just of leather and sinew, but of skill, foresight, and a mother's care. In this small, quiet act of making, the great, violent energy of the hunt finds its ultimate purpose: the protection and nurturing of the next generation. The circle is complete, for now, ready to begin again with the needs of a new day. The new tunic is worn, a perfect fit, a testament to a circle of provision now complete. Days of this settled rhythm begin to accumulate. The stores of dried meat and rendered fat grow, a tangible measure of their security. The newly crafted tools are sharp and ready. The great hide has been transformed. With the most urgent, demanding tasks of survival addressed, a new and precious commodity emerges in the life of the band: time. This is not empty time, not a void to be filled with distraction. It is a quiet, contemplative space, a period of calm that allows for the essential, less strenuous work of maintaining their intricate social world. Imagine a long, warm afternoon in the valley. The sun is high, and a gentle breeze drifts up from the river. The hunters are not out on a major expedition, and the foragers have already returned with the day's greens and roots. A peaceful, domestic energy settles over the camp. In the shade of the great rock overhang, two women sit close together, one patiently grooming the other's hair. This is an act of simple, profound intimacy. Her fingers are not just searching for parasites, but are also a tool of comfort and social connection. This is the primate language of touch, a quiet affirmation of their bond, a gesture that says, "You are part of my circle. I will care for you." It is in these countless small, repeated acts of grooming that the alliances and friendships that form the bedrock of their society are maintained. Further out, near the river, a group of adolescents sits with an elder. He is not lecturing them, but simply talking in a low, quiet voice. He points to the distinctive notch on the distant mountain ridge, the same landmark that guided them to this valley. He is telling them the story of that notch, a tale that involves a mythical giant ancestor and a great thunderstorm. The story is entertaining, but it is also a lesson in navigation, a way of fixing the landmark to a memorable narrative. He is implanting the group's collective map of the world directly into their memories. This is their education, a living oral tradition where history, mythology, and practical geography are seamlessly intertwined. The knowledge they need to survive is not a set of facts, but a tapestry of stories. Not all is quiet contemplation. The sound of laughter erupts from a clearing where two young hunters are engaged in a friendly competition. They are not using their precious sharp-tipped spears, but simple blunted javelins of fire-hardened wood. They take turns throwing them at a target, a large piece of bark propped against a tree, seeing who can strike closest to a mark drawn with charcoal. It is a game, a release of youthful energy, but it is also practice. Their arms and eyes are kept in tune, their competitive instincts sharpened in a context that carries no risk. This playful contest keeps their skills honed for the day when they will be called upon for a real hunt. Another member of the band, a quiet man, simply sits at the mouth of the cave, his back against the warm stone, and watches. He is not idle. His gaze follows the slow, drifting path of a hawk circling high above the valley. He observes the way the fish jump in the river. He notes the subtle changes in the color of the leaves on the trees. His stillness is an act of deep listening, a constant gathering of the ecological data that informs all of the band's decisions. This time of quiet connection, of play, of storytelling and observation is not empty. It is a vital act of cultural maintenance, a reweaving of the social and intellectual fabric that binds them together. It is the strength of these bonds, forged in the peaceful hours, that gives them the power to face the violence and uncertainty of their world as one. The afternoon light softens, and the shadows of the cliffs begin to stretch across the valley floor. The quiet games and conversations of the day fade as the familiar, pleasant scent of the evening fire begins to grow. The time of quiet connection was not empty. It was a vital act of maintenance, a reweaving of the social fabric that binds them together. It is the strength of these bonds, forged in the peaceful hours, that gives them the power to face the violence and uncertainty of their world as one. And that uncertainty is never far away. The valley has been a sanctuary, a place of peace and plenty, but their world is much larger than this single sheltered place, and they are not the only ones who walk upon it. The discovery comes not with a sound or a sudden threat, but as a quiet anomaly, a single detail that is profoundly out of place. A hunter, scouting further upriver than he has gone before, tracking the movements of a herd of wild goats, finds it. Lying half-covered in the mud of the riverbank is a piece of worked flint. But it is not their work. The style is different, the flakes removed with a technique that is subtly but undeniably foreign. It is heavier, less refined than the tools their own knappers produce. He picks it up, his heart suddenly beating faster. He scans the horizon. There is nothing, only the wind and the empty landscape. But this small stone is an unmistakable sign, a calling card left by another human mind. They are not alone in the valley. He returns to the camp not with the relaxed gait of a scout, but with a quick, tense stride. He does not need to speak. His expression and the strange tool he holds in his hand communicates everything. A wave of silent, intense alertness spreads through the group. The peaceful, domestic atmosphere of the afternoon evaporates in an instant.
The children, sensing the shift in the adults, stop their play and draw closer to the cave. The hunters gather their finest spears, testing their points and their balance. The women begin to quietly secure the stores of food. It is not a panic, but a fluid and efficient shift to a defensive posture, a collective bracing for the unknown. The questions hang unspoken in the air. Who are these strangers? Are they strangers? A known band, distant kin with whom they have a shared ancestry and an understanding of peace? Or are they a hostile group, drawn to the same resources, who will see them only as competitors to be driven away, or worse? In their small, isolated world, another human face is the most significant event imaginable. It is at once a potential source of new mates, new knowledge, and new alliances, and at the same time, the most unpredictable and dangerous threat they could ever face. An animal acts on instinct, but another human acts with a mind as complex and unknowable as their own. The leaders of the band, the wise elder, who is the shaman, and the lead hunter, whose skill feeds them, confer in low, urgent tones. They cannot simply hide and hope the strangers pass. This valley is their home for now, and its resources are too valuable to abandon without reason. But to make open contact is to risk everything. They decide on a middle path, a cautious reconnaissance. 2 of their most skilled and stealthy hunters are chosen. Their task is not to engage, but to observe. They must learn the strangers' numbers, their condition, their intentions, all without revealing their own presence. As twilight begins to bleed into the sky, the 2 scouts slip away from the camp, melting into the shadows like ghosts. They move upriver toward the place where the strange tool was found, their senses strained to an almost painful degree of awareness. From their hiding place in the rocks, they finally see it. The faint, distant flicker of another fire, a mirror of their own. The people there are much like them, yet entirely unknown. They are a question the valley has suddenly asked, and the answer their band gives in the coming days will determine the fate of them all. The valley is now a bowl of deep darkness, and the night sky is a familiar canopy of blazing stars. But tonight, the familiar is made strange by a new constellation, a second man-made star that flickers in the distance. From their hiding place among the cold, silent rocks, the 2 scouts watch this distant fire, the center of an unknown world. Their training as hunters has prepared them for this moment. They know the art of stillness, of blending into the shadows, of making their own breath as quiet as the wind. But the quarry they are observing tonight is the most dangerous of all. It is another human mind, another group of beings with the same capacity for reason, creativity, and violence as themselves. Their first observations are made from a great distance, interpreting the grossest of signs. The stranger's fire is small, a meager glow that suggests a scarcity of wood or a desire not to be seen. The sounds that drift on the night air are faint, but they are not the sounds of a contented, well-fed camp. There is no easy laughter, no deep-throated storytelling. Instead, there is the thin, sharp cry of a child, a sound of hunger or distress that is universal. The scouts exchange a look in the darkness, a silent communication of their shared assessment. These are not a people of plenty. To learn more, they must get closer. The true test of their skill begins now. They leave the relative safety of the rock outcrop and begin to move,
not as men walking, but as shadows flowing over the land. They use the sound of the gurgling river to mask the whisper of their feet on the gravel. They time their movements with the passing of a cloud over the moon, using the moments of deepest darkness to cross open ground. Every sense is alive, straining to catch the smallest detail. The scent of the stranger's smoke is different from their own, a sharper, more resinous smell from a different kind of wood. This small fact is filed away, another piece of the puzzle. They find a new vantage point, a dense thicket of thorny bushes on a rise overlooking the stranger's camp. They are now close enough to see the figures around the fire. The picture becomes clearer and more troubling. There are fewer of them than in their own band, perhaps only a dozen individuals. Their bodies are thin, their movements lacking the easy energy that comes from a full belly. Their clothing seems to be made of deer and goat hide, patched and worn. The scouts see a man working on a spear point, and even from this distance, they can recognize the crude, heavy style of the flint tool they found by the river. These people are survivors, but they are struggling. In this observation, a profound and complex feeling emerges. There is the cold, tactical assessment of a potential threat. A desperate group can be a dangerous one, unpredictable and willing to take great risks. But there is also a flicker of something else, recognition. They see a mother huddling with her child, wrapping her in a thin hide against the night's chill. They see an old man chewing on a piece of tough cooked root. They see the same human forms, the same gestures of care and hunger that define their own lives. These strangers are not monsters. They are simply another family, much like their own, but touched by a harder fate. Their mission is complete. They have looked into the heart of another world, a world of hardship and uncertainty. Now they must carry this fragile, incomplete picture back to their own people. As they begin their silent retreat through the moonlit shadows, they carry with them not just information, but the heavy burden of a choice that will shape the future of this valley. The journey back to their own camp is a silent, swift passage through the moonlit dark. The two scouts move with a purpose that is heavier than before, their minds filled with the images from the stranger's fire. They are no longer just hunters, they are ambassadors, carrying a fragile report that will require the collective wisdom of their people to interpret. When they finally slip back into the familiar, comforting glow of their own home, the camp is waiting. The elders and the lead hunter are sitting by the fire, their faces tense with anticipation. The scout's report is delivered without fanfare, a quiet, factual recounting in the center of the circle. They do not use many words, but their gestures and the tones of their voices paint a vivid picture for the council of elders. They hold up their fingers to show the small number of the other band. They draw their hands in at their stomachs to show their thinness. They mimic the sound of the crying child. They present the crude, heavy flint tool, a piece of physical evidence that speaks volumes about the stranger's struggles or their different traditions. And they describe the feeling of the camp, not the aggressive posture of a war party, but the weary huddle of a family group pushed to the edge of its resources. The information is laid before the leaders, and a deep, contemplative silence settles around the fire. Now the true council begins. The lead hunter, the man who guided the great bison into their trap, speaks first. His perspective is grounded in the hard realities of risk and reward. He sees the stranger's weakness not as an opportunity, but as a danger. Desperate people do desperate things, his gestures and low words convey. To reveal their own prosperity, their stores of meat, their superior tools, their strong and healthy children, could be to invite an attack born not of malice, but of envy and need. His duty is to protect his own band first. His instinct is one of caution, of suspicion. Perhaps the best course of action is to make a show of strength, to patrol the edges of their territory with spears in hand, a clear, unspoken warning for the strangers to move on. Then the shaman, the old woman who sees the world through a lens of spiritual balance and ancestral memory, offers her wisdom. She sees the situation differently. She reminds the council that they themselves were a wandering, struggling band not so long ago. She speaks of the importance of connections, of the fact that no band can survive alone forever. New blood, new knowledge, and new alliances are the only way to ensure the long-term survival of their people. To turn away another human family in need, she implies, is to invite a spiritual imbalance, to offend the spirits of compassion and kinship that govern the world. It is an act of hubris that could bring misfortune. Her counsel is not to be reckless, but to be open, to make a gesture not of threat, but of humanity. The elders listen, weighing these two opposing truths. They are the keepers of the band's history, and they have memories of other encounters, some peaceful, some disastrous. For a long time, the only sound is the crackling of the fire. Finally, a consensus begins to form, a middle path between fear and faith. They will not hide, nor will they threaten. They will make contact, but they will do so on their own terms, in a way that demonstrates their strength and their lack of hostile intent simultaneously. They will send a small, peaceful delegation, and they will bring a gift. The decision of what to give is simple and immediate. It will be the one thing that speaks louder than any word or gesture, the ultimate symbol of life and success. It will be meat. The decision is made. As the first light of dawn approaches, a small party prepares to leave. They carry their spears slung respectfully over their backs, their hands intentionally empty. In the hands of the lead hunter is the offering, a large, carefully wrapped portion of the smoked bison. It is a symbol of their power and a gesture of peace. They are about to walk into the heart of another world, not as warriors, but as messengers, hoping that the universal language of generosity will be understood. The sun has not yet risen, but the eastern sky is beginning to pale, outlining the dark, sleeping forms of the mountains. The air is cold and carries the clean, sharp scent of the coming day. The three members of the delegation move with a quiet purpose, their footsteps making almost no sound on the damp earth. They are the lead hunter, the young scout who first found the foreign tool, and the shaman, whose presence lends a spiritual weight to their mission. Their spears are slung across their backs, a sign that they are capable of defense but are not seeking a fight. In the lead hunter's hands, held before him like a sacred offering, is the large, heavy portion of smoked bison meat, wrapped carefully in a clean piece of hide. Each step they take is a step into the unknown, a deliberate move toward a future that could hold either alliance or annihilation. They do not use the stealth of the hunt. As they near the area of the stranger's camp, they move into the open, allowing themselves to be seen in the growing light. They walk slowly, their posture open and non-threatening. The response is immediate. A sharp, guttural cry erupts from the other camp, an alarm call. Figures scramble in the dim light. The peaceful morning is shattered. The delegation sees the strangers form a defensive line. The few adult males standing at the front, clutching their heavy, crude-looking spears. Behind them, the women and children huddle, their faces pale with fear. They are cornered, vulnerable, and ready to fight with the ferocity of the desperate. The delegation halts, leaving a wide, neutral space of about 100 paces between the two groups. This is the most dangerous moment, the point at which a single misinterpretation could lead to a shower of thrown spears. The two groups stare at each other across the divide, a tense, silent standoff. The lead hunter takes in the scene before him. He sees the fear in their eyes, the gauntness of their faces, the way the children hide behind their mothers. He also sees their defiance, their readiness to die to protect their own. The shaman beside him is utterly still, her gaze fixed on her counterpart in the other group, an old man with a worried face. She is reading not their physical posture, but the spirit of their camp, its energy of fear and exhaustion. After a long, breathless moment, the lead hunter begins the gesture they had planned. He moves a few steps forward, alone. Slowly, deliberately, he unslings his spear from his back and lays it carefully on the ground. It is an act of profound vulnerability, a clear and unmistakable signal that he has not come for violence. He then kneels, unwrapping the gift of meat. The rich, smoky smell of the preserved bison drifts on the morning air, a scent of unimaginable wealth to the hungry band. He holds the meat up for a moment so all can see it, then places it gently on the ground in the middle of the open space. His gesture complete, he backs away slowly, rejoining his companions without ever turning his back. The strangers are frozen, stunned into silence. Their minds struggle to process what they have just seen. In a world defined by fierce competition for scarce resources, such an act of open-handed generosity is utterly alien. They watch the gift of food lying on the ground, a promise of life offered freely. Is it a trap? Is it poisoned? Their leader, a weary-looking man with a gray-streaked beard, stares at the three figures, who wait patiently, their hands empty and open. He sees no trickery in their eyes, only a quiet, confident stillness. He speaks in a low voice to his own people, and after a moment of tense debate, he makes his decision. He too lays his spear on the ground. Alone, he walks with a hesitant but steady gait into the neutral space. He kneels before the gift, touches it, smells it, and finally lifts the heavy bounty. He looks across the space at the lead hunter, his eyes filled with a mixture of disbelief, relief, and a dawning respect. The stranger chief nods once, a slow, solemn gesture of acknowledgement, before carrying the precious meat back to his hungry family. The standoff is broken, not by a spear, but by a gift. In the quiet morning air of the valley, a fragile bridge has been built between two worlds. What will cross that bridge? Knowledge, friendship, new life is yet to be known. But the path is now open. This choice, this single moment of trust in the face of fear, is the deep, ancient magic that allowed our species to not just survive, but to one day inherit the earth. The gift of meat lies between the two camps, a silent testament to a choice made in favor of trust over fear. The sun climbs, warming the valley, and the fragile, invisible bridge built in the dawn light holds. On either side, the two bands of people begin their day, but the world feels different now. The valley is no longer a territory to be defended, but a space to be potentially shared. The presence of the other is no longer a source of anxiety, but one of cautious, hopeful curiosity. What will cross that bridge in the days and weeks to come? A new tool design? A different story? The face of a future partner? Is a story for another time. Our journey with this small band, our walk through a single momentous chapter of their lives, is now coming to a close. Let us pull our focus back now, away from the specific details of this one family, in this one valley. Let us rise high above the river and the cliffs, so high that the two small fires are just indistinguishable points of light. Let us see the valley itself shrink until it is just another fold in the vast rumpled hide of the continent. And across that great expanse, in the savannas of Africa, the deep forests of Asia, and the cold steppes of Europe, there are other lights, other small fires. Each one is a tiny, fragile bubble of warmth, community, and human consciousness in an immense and untamed world. For tens of thousands of years, this was the state of our species, scattered, small, but profoundly resilient. Over the course of our journey, we have sat by their fire and felt its essential warmth. We have walked with them and seen the world through their eyes, a world not of inert resources, but of living spirits, a library of signs to be read with reverence and skill. We have witnessed the miracle of their minds at work, transforming a worthless stone into a perfect lethal tool, and a blank cave wall into a sacred canvas. We have felt the gnawing emptiness of their hunger and the deep communal satisfaction of a shared feast. We have understood that their ultimate tool for survival was not the stone axe, but the social bond, the unspoken contract of mutual care that allowed the strong to provide for the weak and the wise to guide the young. And what of the question we asked at the very beginning of our journey? What did they feel? What was the shape of their thoughts? After spending this time with them, perhaps the answer is simpler and more profound than we could have imagined. In the quiet moments, we have seen them. We saw the love in a mother's hands as she stitched a tunic for her child. We saw the cautious hope in the eyes of a young couple finding their connection. We saw the pride in the face of a master craftsman, the grief and worry for a sick friend, the joy in a child's game, and the deep spiritual awe of an artist communing with his creation. Their world was unimaginably different, harsher and more immediate than our own, but the landscape of their hearts, the fundamental emotions that drove them, were the same ones that drive us today. This is their ultimate legacy. It is not in the scattered stones or the faded paintings they left behind. Their legacy is within us. The architecture of our minds, the rhythms of our bodies, the deep, ancient need we have for community, for story, for meaning. All of this was forged in their world. The day we have witnessed, with its cycle of waking, working, sharing, and resting, is a rhythm that still echoes in our own lives. We are the children of the survivors, the ones who learned to choose cooperation over conflict, to nurture the young, to care for the sick, and to look up at the stars and wonder. Their fire has been passed down generation to generation, and it burns now in the heart of our own modern world. In the quiet of your own night, as you drift toward sleep, you are returning to the same state of trust and vulnerability they knew so well. And if you listen, in the space between your own thoughts, you can still feel the faint, steady pulse of their world, the ancient, foundational heartbeat of our shared human story.